Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Hello Gamer Nation and welcome to the Dice Ball Podcast Live Play Edition. I'm your host Ian Houlihan, better known as GM Hurley. This is an example play episode using the GeneSys Role Playing Game by Fantasy Flight Games. Our story this episode is set in the fantasy world of Mennara on the continent of Terrinoth, made famous by the rune-bound setting by Fantasy Flight Games. For those not familiar with the setting, you may wish to check out The Descent, Rune-bound or Rune Wars board games, the Legacy of Dragonhold narrative adventure game, or even the Rune Wars miniatures game, all by Fantasy Flight Games. Before we start, I should mention that some parts of this episode are spent teaching the game to a new player. We love new players and we would like to encourage you to introduce new players into your game as we have in this episode. This is the fifth and final part of the multi-part story arc. If you haven't listened to the earlier chapters, we would highly recommend going back and listening to those first before proceeding with this episode. For announcements about the podcast, including further releases of future adventures, stay tuned to social media by searching Diceball Podcast or visiting us on the web at thediceballpodcast.com. In the last episode, the PCs came face to face with a horde of ravenous zombies, a powerful necromancer, and their quarry, Lady Farrow, in the depths of Neric Hall's catacombs. Will the PCs survive their final encounter and learn the true purpose of Lady Farrow's journey to Neric Hall? Perhaps it's time to join the holy warrior Alice Rain, the mage Leoric of the book, the famed alchemist and vampire hunter Ulma Grimstone, and the orcish scout Pathfinder Durek on their final adventure into the haunted city. Right, so we're back to the top of the round, and the first one is an NPC. So one of the zombie groups which is attacking Ulma and Durek, they're going to commit their attack. So they're going to attack Durek.
Bring it on.
All right, so I've got a difficulty of 2 purple die, a green and a yellow. Do you have a melee defense? I do not believe you do. Excellent. All right.
Sorry, I shook my head. It's a podcast. No.
All right, they are going to aim, however, yes, they are zombies, and they're going to aim to give themselves a boost die.
Oh, wait.
Jesus!
Is this melee?
Yes.
This is melee defense.
How many talents do you have?
So many.
Excuse me, we've only had one combat before this. This is the only time I've been able to do anything. Okay. Yes, do you succeed?
I don't know yet. I'll find out in a moment. It looks like I do.
Great. Not great, but when hit by a melee attack, suffer 3 strain to reduce the damage by 3. So we'll see what happens, if it's worth it or not for that 3.
So from this attack, you actually take 7 points of damage.
I am going to suffer 3 strain.
So since you have a soak of 4... plus your 3 that you've got from that, you have an effective soak of 7.
So 7,
So
you'll take nothing.
You take no damage whatsoever.
I love their attempt. It's a parry.
It's like-
Sorry, that was a that was a parry talent that I had.
Nice. Have you used all of your talents now?
Nah. I thought you had. One with nature and swift.
What does Swift do for you?
Swift does not require extra maneuvers to move through difficult terrain.
Oh.
Hasn't really been something that's come up yet.
Yep.
When in the wilderness, may use survival instead of cool or discipline to recover strain at the end of an encounter.
There you go. That probably would have been helpful if we'd remembered that.
We haven't been in the wilderness.
You were out in the wilderness.
Yeah, I slept.
All
Yeah,
good.
that well-paved road to the city. The wilderness.
Okay, so their attack just does absolutely nothing. It claws at your skin, and you just manage to keep them at bay.
I just managed to roar in one of their faces just because I think looks cool.
That's what you do, right?
I would like to go next. I would like to, given what's going on, rush back to the room where these people are, so that I'm within short range of them, because they were medium before, so maneuver will take me to that.
Remember that you have to get up as well.
Yep, but I can take 2 strain to do those 2 maneuvers to get there, yes?
Okay, so it'll take you a maneuver to stand up.
Stand up.
And then a maneuver to go from... Now, you're currently medium range away from
the rest of the party.
From
we
the rest of the
established
party.
earlier, yep.
Okay, so you can take 1 maneuver and you'll be short range away from the zombies, as well as Ulma and Jurek.
What about...
Alice was right next to you, if you recall.
That's fine, so I'll still be within short range of them.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay.
Essentially the middle of everyone, basically.
Which is where I want to be. Because I'm going to summon up some of my magic. And I'm going to cast a Shield of Knowledge.
Wow.
Okay.
Tell me about this Shield of Knowledge.
He's always got that on. No knowledge can penetrate this shield.
I can. Well, with this, it's a barrier action,
Right.
As a part of the magic that I can do, and it has a range of short. I can select 1 target within that range of me, and I make an easy Arcana check. If I'm successful until the end of my next turn, I reduce the damage of all hits to the target by 1. Further reduce it by 1 for every uncancelled 2 successes beyond the first.
Nice.
So that's really nice. But I want to extend the number of targets I can hit, which will increase the difficulty by 1. I also want it to reflect magic that's used against anyone that's affected by this, which will increase the difficulty of this check by another 2.
Ooh.
So, what that looks like will be 4 difficulty. So
Ow.
that's a daunting check.
Yep, daunting, yes.
And, well, I'm pretty good at this, having 3 proficiency dice and an ability dice. It's quite difficult, though. But knowing how much danger we're in, and that I'm fighting against this dark magic, and I've got some insight into what's going on here. I'd like to upgrade that using a story point.
Sure.
Putting me at 4 proficiency dice. That's pretty much it for my check.
Okay.
Are you doing anything?
I'm not going to do anything for this check.
Let's see how I roll. I've failed.
Unfortunately failed. No advantages or threat or anything like that?
1 threat.
Right. Okay, so obviously, moving, getting up out of the muck and whatever else, you take a point of strain, I'm thinking. Actually, my apologies. With the way that magic works, a threat actually is 2 strain or a wound, your choice.
I might take a wound, I
Ooh,
think.
blood magic. Your nose starts to bleed.
It's a terrible roll.
Oh yes, the curse has passed on.
So,
Maybe not past, is just spreading.
No, I've been rolling hot tonight. So, I've passed checks. It's been months since I've passed checks. It's amazing.
Maybe I shouldn't have gone for the reflection and just tried to.
maybe you've pushed the magic a little bit too far.
I have.
And you haven't been able to manipulate it. Okay.
Do you want me to go next? Because I can run into the fray, and where we're with your character and both your characters. I can get the group of zombies, and if you guys wanted to, you can focus on the big bad. Because I can't reach the big bad, but you guys could.
Okay.
All right. So
Are you okay with that? Because you're going to be coming with me.
Of course.
Alice sees Leoric jump up out of the muck, and she follows suit and runs not far behind him as he tries to cast that Shield of Knowledge spell. She doesn't slow down though. She keeps just powering forwards through the sludge, and then sure enough, she jumps into the fray. with Durek and Alma with her glowing warhammer and sinks it into the next group of zombies.
Nice. So that's just going to be 2 purple dice for the attack and 1 setback die because of their melee defense.
Roger. So I'll take 2 strain because I am doing 2 maneuvers to get there. Mm-hmm. So I am looking pretty exhausted, but that's okay. Alrighty. So my overall roll looks like 3 yellow dice, 1 green dice, 2 purple dice, and 2 setback dice. The first setback coming from the defense of the zombies, and the second setback coming from the accuracy of my warhammer. Yes, here we go. So I succeed with just 1 success, no frills. So it's going to be a total of 10 damage.
Wow.
Straight into the zombies. I'll tell you what, I'm also going to take 3 strain. It's risky. And add my ranks discipline to that attack. So that's going to be a total of 12 damage.
Right, so for 12 damage, that's going to take that to 8 points of damage. And that's actually going to wipe out that minion group altogether.
Was it the extra strain, extra little damage?
It was the extra little bit of damage. There you go.
So at that point, Alice, she just comes into the fray. She tells Durek to just push forwards and get the vampire. I'll hold the line against the zombies. She's looking pretty exhausted, Alice, but she's still willing to push on and hold the line and do what needs to be done to defeat this evil vampire.
Absolutely. So there is only now 1 minion group of zombies, which is in amongst the close combat between Durek and Ulma, and now Alice as well. Who's next? NPC. All right, so the first NPC, I might as well do the last minion group of the zombies. So
it's safe to say that they're drawn to this, in their perspective, disgusting holy righteous power,
I would
and spin around to try and attack their true enemy.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, so they go to attack. Now, do you have any ranged defense?
Melee defense? I do not.
Melee defense. Okay, rightio. Interestingly enough, it is spreading across the table to me now.
Yes.
All right, so all that amounts to, unfortunately, is a single advantage.
Oh, okay.
All right. They obviously they can sense the divine power in you, which is completely against everything that they feel that they're driven by, and they lumber all over you to try to attack, which is going to give you a setback die for the next check.
I like to picture them sort of just falling over the top of Alice. Alice is there in the middle of it. The zombies are just jumping on her. Their claws are just raking out her plate armor, but not actually getting through. But there's just that many of them now just crawling on top of her. Yep. It's going to impede her future actions, and that's why she has that setback.
Setback die, yeah, exactly right. Okay, so now we have Miss Farrow. So she's short range away from the rest of you, she's quite concerned. She wants this ritual to continue. It's not long until it gets completed, but she is furious at this point. So she looks in Alice's direction as the darkness all goes around, but her eyes glow this sort of deep red. And she looks into your very being and says,
"You feeble creature. You, your friends, you're all pathetic. Your sad devotion to your gods will do nothing against me. Now, bow, insect." As
she makes an opposed charm versus discipline check. What is your discipline?
Alice is quite disciplined. Her discipline is, for the sake of an opposed check, it's actually 1 purple, 2 red.
1 purple and 2 red.
So there's 2 ranks in this.
Okay. So with 1 purple and 2 red now, her presence is 5, and she has a charm of 3. So that's going to be 3 yellows and 2 greens.
Okay. Do you guys mind if we upgrade this?
Not at all.
Okay, she is certainly going to upgrade her check because she wants this ritual. She is driven to make sure that this occurs. So she's going to upgrade one of those, and you're going to do the same thing?
Back as our force of will clashes.
which it kind of, this is, I guess, the follow-up to your interaction that you had at the Holloway Inn.
This is true.
Okay, this will be interesting. All right, so she has succeeded. She has rolled 3 successes and 3 advantages.
Gross.
Now, what that means is that with her Dominate ability, she targets one character in short range. If successful, the target is immobilized for 1 round per uncancelled success. So you are currently...
Can't do maneuvers.
You can't do maneuvers for 3 rounds.
Okay.
This is a spell, isn't it?
This is not a spell, no. It's a special ability that Miss Farrow has.
Ooh, the wizard's going to his spellbook.
Also known as the GeneSys Role Playing Game.
Yeah, but I can't do anything yet because I've already used my action for this round.
Absolutely. Okay. But she's also used she's got 3 advantages. So what she is going to do is, because you've sort of been told what to do, you suddenly drop your weapon as you are mesmerised by her charms. And then she backs off back into the room. So she's now at medium range away. All right, so the last NPC slot for this particular round is going to be the Necromancer, who, from the description that you were provided by the Dean as well as the Doctor, you seem to believe that Marva Skane is the person who is in the other room who is casting the ritual. So he then says some more words and some more gestures, and that same red pulse of energy goes out. And he yells out,
"I am mere moments from completing this ritual. You shall be able to stand in the light once more, Lady Farrow."
Dramatic.
We'd best stop him.
Who's next?
It's a PC. Now, when you say that she is from medium range from Alice, what range is she away from us?
Medium range.
You still get there.
I will take the next slot then.
Oh, right. That's okay.
Well, why don't you have the bomb thrower go first?
Okay, yeah.
So did you want to go first, Ulma?
I do have a medium range attack, but it's only a sling and it doesn't do much.
You don't have any more grenades?
No, the grenades are only short range.
True.
Well, you could disengage or from Durek's back and move forward a little bit and throw your...
You can do a manoeuvre to move to short range away from her and throw a grenade in her general direction.
Okay, do I suffer strain for... No.
No.
No,
If you
okay.
aim, you would suffer 2 points of strain.
Like to aim.
Okay.
So not in her general direction, right out.
Right.
Do you have a talent called Strong Arm?
No.
Okay. Let's check.
That'd
No,
be
I
cool
didn't.
if you did.
I'm
You
just-
throw things at up to medium range.
So yes, I would like to move forward from
Yep.
medium range to short range, and I would like to throw one of my bottled lightning right at Lady Farrow
Okay. Sure.
because I'm ambitious that way. Yes,
Okay. So
and to aim is 2 strain.
2 strain, that's right. So you've done a manoeuvre, then you've aimed, which is another manoeuvre, and then you've taken the action, so your second manoeuvre would have cost you the 2 points of strain. All right, so it's short range away, so it's only 1 purple difficulty, and she has adversary 2, which means that will become a purple and a red, because it gets upgraded twice, and then she has a range defense of 1. So 1 black dice.
Don't forget your boost because you aimed. It's the blue one.
Cool.
You set?
All right, now, are you going to upgrade your check at all?
It's a good throw.
Do it.
Go for it.
Go for it.
And the bottled lightning has
Yeah.
so much damage.
You've been wanting to use this for so long.
Yeah. You're like, finally a chance.
So, sure, you can flip that story point over, okay? However, a couple of things. First thing, you're a vampire slayer, so we've established that. That's in our canon now.
Yeah.
So you can have a boost die because you're fighting a vampire. However, she gives you a knowing grin she's seen the way you throw. She can predict what you're going to do, so you can flip that story point over to upgrade so that you have 2 red dice.
And don't forget to change a green one to yellow. Yep. You got this. Double triumphs. I'm calling it now.
Yay!
So you rolled a triumph?
I did.
Okay, so Michael was only half right, but
No,
that's okay.
no, do it again. You did 2 triumphs. Mediocre at best.
So you've rolled a triumph. Excellent. Rightio. So has it succeeded though?
I have a threat and a triumph.
Yep.
And another success.
That's awesome. Okay. So what does that actually mean with your lightning, your bottled lightning?
My damage is a 7.
Right.
And I have stun damage as well.
So, she was looking at what you were doing before and she was predicting everything. So she's grabbed this, she's managed to catch it, which has sort of caused you a certain amount of consternation, and you take a point of strain because you rolled a threat. However, this thing goes off in her hand. Lightning courses all over her body and down her arms and covering her in this electrical discharge from the lightning grenade, and then suddenly it explodes, and she is less than impressed. So it does stun damage, does it not?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so how much damage was it in total?
It does 8 damage in total.
8 damage in total. Okay, so she has a soak value of 6. Cool. That comes off that, so she takes 2 points of strain damage. So what would you like to do with that triumph?
So if I was to use that triumph for crit, like what would that, like how would the crit impact?
It depends.
So we roll on a table.
Yeah.
And depending on what comes up, she'll be affected in some way. So it could be that she has to spend strain to do anything in the round, or one of her arms could be immobilized for the rest of the fight, or all sorts of things.
It's okay.
It's random.
I do. I like the sound of that, so I'm going to use my triumph to activate a crit.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so what you have to do is you have to roll a percentile dice as we consult our table.
Oh, it's 87.
87. Okay, what does an 87 do?
87. Well, that is compromised. Increase the difficulty of all skill checks by 1 until this critical injury is healed.
Increase the difficulty by 1.
So she's being fried by this electricity.
Good lord. So she is not impressed at all. So that's going to affect her in the long term. All right. So who's next?
Jurek, I believe.
Jurek.
I have now been detached of my dwarf back.
Burden.
It's no longer called a hunchback. It's called a dwarf back.
It's not Duma.
You could run your medium from Stein or medium from her.
She can make it for charge.
So Jurek is going to go at Lady Farrow, and he is going to do a reckless charge at her, and is going to hit her with his dual strike.
Rightio.
So that's going to be a total of 4 strain in his attack.
Okay, so she has a adversary of 2, which means that the check's going to be upgraded twice. So that should be, as far as the base difficulty goes, it's going to be 1 purple and 2 reds, and if you're going to spend some strain to drop that, that'll become just 2 reds.
I'm going to do my dual wielder instead of dual strike, because that makes so much more of a difference, and reckless charge, so that's going to... Right. Okay, so my roll ended up being, it's 3 successes, 2 advantages, and a triumph.
Okay, so how much damage do you do to her for a start? And are you spending any additional strain or anything like that to do more damage?
I can't without passing out at this point.
Okay. So how much damage are you doing so far?
That is going to be a total of 7 damage.
7 points of damage. Now, she has a soak value of 6, so that means she's only going to take 1 point of damage. However, what are you going to do with, firstly, the advantages?
I'm going to recover some strain with my 2 advantage, so I don't pass out immediately.
Right. And what are you going to do with the triumph?
I am going to whilst my attack didn't do so much damage to her, I attacked her with so much rage and ferocity that it totally broke her concentration and broke the spell that she had cast on Alice.
I'd allow that. Totally fine. Okay. So you can act in the next round.
Alice will act.
All right, so are we back at the top of the round?
We are.
Yes.
So an NPC is going first. So it is going to be Lady Farrow. She is not impressed and she is in hand-to-hand combat now with Jurek. So suddenly the anger and hatred she has towards the party for interfering with her plan since the homestead bubbles to the surface. She screams as would a banshee as she opens her mouth wider than humanly possible, exposing razor-sharp fangs. Her face contorts into this hellish creature and her fingernails grow into sharpened talons. She lunges forward to attack, her aim clearly to rid the world of your existence.
It's kind of like that defense because I actually freaked her out that much that now she's getting real.
She's
Now she's
raging.
getting nasty.
She's raging. she's raging herself.
I wasn't that good.
Oh, she is biting.
She's getting...
All right, so it's going to be 2 purple die. You don't have any melee defense, so she attacks with 2 yellows, 2 greens, and 2 purples. But she also increases the difficulty by 1 due to the critical hit that she suffered earlier.
She does.
That's right.
So she gets an extra difficulty die. Right, so that's actually going to be 2 successes. So she bites down on your neck, Jurek. You can feel the blood start to flow down onto your tunic.
I am still covered in I just like that noted for the narrative.
A look of disgust crosses her face.
She tastes terrible. So she does 8 points of damage to you, plus she then gains back her 1 point that she just took of wounds as she draws in your blood. Okay, so who's next?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to go again.
Sure.
First, this turn. Because I'm really terrified that Skyn is going to actually complete his ritual, as he says he's moments away from this. So, in my research before, I came across the word that will undo the magic that he is trying to gather here.
Yep.
So I'd like to do a dispel magic action.
Sure.
Which typically requires me to be at short range.
Right.
So I'm going to have to move up.
Rightio.
So I'll need to do 2 maneuvers to get within short.
Yep.
So that'll cost me 2 strain. Then I'll need to cast a spell, which will cost me 2 strain.
Right.
Leaving me with 2 strain left before I hit my threshold.
Oh dear.
And a dispel action is 3 difficulty, so it's a
Right.
hard check.
Okay.
So but because I know this word, will upgrade my ability.
Yes, absolutely.
with this?
Yep. So you'll make a you'll make a Arcana check
Yep.
with the difficulty being 3 purple dice.
Yes. Now, this is a combat check essentially. So does he have adversary?
He does. He has adversary 1.
Right. Is that all? Because it seems to be a pretty important check, I'd like to spend our last story point once more in order to upgrade this further.
Yep.
Giving me another
green dice. Okay.
Another green dice.
Now, he knew that you were coming before,
Yes,
and
he
he
did.
was preparing himself, so you can automatically upgrade one of those. That's an example of me keeping a hold of a despair. But you can also flip a story point because he's really prepared. So you can upgrade that again.
Right. So
Things have just become a little bit more difficult for you.
Well, I've still got 4 proficiency dice and 1 ability dice versus 3 challenge dice.
Yes.
So it's still looking good.
Cool.
Excellent. Okay. So it looks good.
Okay.
So after adding and subtracting, I end up with a triumph,
Nice.
a success, and an advantage.
Okay, so you've sent down this dispelling to try to dispel this whatever ritual that he's trying to perform. and your spell breaks that ritual. Now, you rolled some advantages, did you?
Just the one.
Just the one advantage? Okay, so how would you like to spend that advantage?
As I realise that this has worked. Nothing has been working all night. I get a little bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling and recover a point of strain.
Nice. Now, with him, this spell which has been broken, both him and Lady Farrow just yell at the top of their lungs. And you can see almost this burst of energy sort of just crackles as it flows around the room. The dark mist, it starts to just completely dissipate. But when you see that it's dissipating, it's actually going into him. How would you like to spend that triumph? I know how I'd like to spend it.
Go for it.
Okay, so what happens is that the dark energy which has been flowing around him, which has been empowering this ritual, now that you've dispelled it, you see what the ritual was trying to do. So he's been trying to arrange for her to be able to walk in the sunlight, to remove her disadvantage of being a vampire, where she couldn't walk out in sunlight. So that was, and effectively that's what the arrangement was, that why she was coming to Neric Hall in the first place, is that she was making arrangements with him where she was going to share his knowledge for, vampirism and things like that, and he in turn was going to be giving her the ability to be able to walk in the daylight. But all of this dark energy swirls around the room, and it starts to suddenly sort of come to within him, and suddenly it starts to consume him, and he starts to sort of melt away, and his flesh falls from his face, and he's screaming in agony as he starts to just pool onto the ground, and he sort of falls down to his knees. His legs just shatter into pieces, and he just collapses into the ground, and just all that he becomes is just dust and mist. In the meantime, the vampire, she just screams at the top of her lungs, and she says,
I cannot believe that pathetic fools such as you have foiled my plan to feel the warmth of the sun once more on my face. You have robbed me of that pleasure, an action that I shall not forget easily. I shall take my leave forthwith, but I promise you, I will return, and I will have my revenge. Insects.
She is clearly ready for combat, though. Her eyes dart about the room as though that she's looking for a means or a place to escape. But she clearly has her eyes fixated on removing you from the battlefield.
I also imagine that with every little slight movement, she's got like this little twitch of her still being electrocuted and having little bits of lightning coming off of her.
Yeah. She's got ranged defense?
She has a ranged defense of 1.
She's adversary 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, Alice, free from her grip, the charm that this vampire had over her, and that goes against everything in Alice's books. She's all about the law and order and, bringing justice, and to have her self-controlled by a vampire like that, even for the briefest moment, is like the biggest insult anyone could ever do to her. It goes against her grain entirely. She walks towards Lady Farrow, picking up her warhammer along the way. She just strolls straight at her and says, "Thy will to deliver justice to those who defy the law of the Citadel drives me in all ways," and swings the hammer at the vampire's head.
Right.
It's not bad.
That's pretty good.
So what did you roll?
Well, I rolled a triumph.
Nice.
It's the night of them, apparently. It's been dry for the last few sessions.
Like 3 in a row.
It has.
People are
We
insane.
couldn't do anything earlier.
No. We saved it all up. There was one moment or so.
Yeah.
So, triumphantly hit with 3 successes.
Right.
For a total of 12 damage.
12 damage, yep.
I'll use the triumph to activate concussive and stagger her for a round.
So she can't do any actions. Nice.
So the head of the hammer.
So she takes 12 points of damage as well, is that right? Okay, so she's taking 6 damage, which is substantial. She's not impressed. All right, who'd like to go next?
NPC.
NPC. I'm running out of NPCs. I think I've got a zombie or two that are left. All right, so the zombies are going to probably attack Ulma, I think, because they're down that general direction. So they attack. They'll also take a aim action. All right, so this will be interesting. Okay, so I've rolled 3 successes, but 4 threat. All right, so you take total of 9 points of damage for that attack. However, because Skane has passed on, over, or under, as the case may be, since he was a necromancer after all, and he had control of all the zombies, with the 4th threat, the zombies, after they attack Ulma, they kind of stop what they're doing and they gurgle as their innards basically come out of their mouth and sort of fall into the sewerage at your feet. They then collapse. They sort of quiver and collapse into a pile of flesh.
Nice.
All right, since she can't take any actions, and she's really the last person who's left in the combat, I think that probably what would be a good plan is to do this last part of the scene as an incidental combat encounter. Now, for those people who've been looking at the Facebook group, you'll find the rules for incidental combat encounters, which is under the mic stand. Just look up under the section on the Facebook page and you'll see the rules for that. But effectively, it is just a single check which is performed by someone, which I think would be a good opportunity to have, as she's unable to do anything, is for somebody to come up and maybe it's the final blow or something like that. So I'll get you to describe that narratively. The problem is, this is the stakes that it's going to be. So if you succeed, you'll eliminate her. However, if you fail, she manages to turn into the bats that she turned into, and she manages to disappear into the night to perhaps come back at a later stage down the track. So who would like to make that check?
I will. Ulma will.
Ulma, the vampire slayer?
Makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
All right, so Ulma, what are you going to do? Tell me what this looks like.
Don't you have for a story point a special UV grenade stashed up your sleeve? You save for the one instance of killing vampires.
Right, so the difficulty for this check, Madeline, is going to be 2 reds and 2 purples.
Okay.
So what are you doing? How is this looking?
Okay. So Lady Farrow is looking distraught. She is staggered and she is weak. And I feel like it's a perfect opportunity to end her. So I have a particular grenade that I have always wanted to use.
Right.
In my vampire hunting past.
Right.
And this seems like the perfect moment. So what I would want to do is to use this on her.
Right. So this is sounding like story point flipping material. Would that be fair?
Yes. Oh my god, it is.
All right. So flip a story point. Okay, which is the last story point.
And so you could use she can use her, if you wanted to, her alchemy in this. It represents her skill in the bomb she's created.
Absolutely. So I think that's perfect. So use alchemy skill, I'm thinking. Because you've prepared this this
special grenade
that's been hanging around your neck. That's cool.
We've all seen this grenade too. We're like, why didn't she ever use this grenade? And now we're like,
So is it like glowing?
It's a small pendant-like grenade, and it's glowing on a chain around my neck.
So it's kind of like a purpley sort of like ultra. I don't know. Like that's cool. Okay.
Yes, it is. So I'm going to be using my alchemy.
Right. Yes. Absolutely.
No idea. Okay.
Now, because you've flipped a story point, you can upgrade one of your dice from a green to a yellow.
May I please borrow a yellow dice from someone? Thank you. Okay, so roll.
Now, I'm thinking because of how cool it is, I'm going to give you a boost die for that as well.
I'm so excited.
That's another tryout.
Oh, God.
That one's mine. That's mine.
Thank you so much, Caitlin.
You are so welcome.
Oh, this
Right.
is so exciting.
So what was the final result out of all of that?
4 advantages and a triumph?
Okay, and did you succeed on the check, though?
No.
Right.
It taunted us.
So you pulled that victory away from the last. So what actually happened?
Okay, so what happens is the grenade that I have saved for so long is a trap grenade
It's
from vampires.
it's a trap grenade for vampires. Okay.
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
Okay, so how it works is I throw this grenade at a vampire, it explodes,
Right.
causing the vampire to shrink down.
to turn into sort of
A little bit unique, like about like half.
Or maybe it causes a chemical reaction. You know how vampires can turn into mist?
Yes.
It forces her into a mist form and captures her in a jar.
Oh,
in
that's
the
what
jar
you were
that
going for?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Awesome. All
So
right.
this adventure is just going to turn into catching all the vampires that you possibly can.
No, this is a once-off.
Shoot at vampires later.
Got to catch them all.
Okay, so you've managed to capture her. There's this bright light, and then suddenly a little wink of spark as the grenade falls gently into your hand, and she ends up inside this small glowing grenade, which is sort of has a gold chain still attached to it.
So we haven't killed her.
No.
She's still around.
Can I?
But
can I-
she's...
Yeah. Can I flip a GM story point on your behalf?
Yes.
And have it that pendant, the little grenade that has sucked up the essence of the vampire,
Yep.
actually contains several vampires, and it's getting a little
Bit full.
But we don't know that.
I like that idea. That's cool. All right. So, yeah, you can flip a story point for that, definitely. All right. So, you've successfully managed to break the ritual. You've managed to not kill Lady Farrow, but certainly capture her for the time being. So, you have succeeded in eliminating a vampire from the lands of Terrinoth for the moment, allowing you to continuing adventuring for another day. So that's the end of the adventure, guys. Thank you very much for playing. Hopefully you've had a lot of fun, and hopefully the listeners have also had a lot of fun as well.
It was a blast.
That was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. It was wicked.
I'm looking forward to playing in a actual campaign in Terrinoth with characters we've made up. So that should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, because there's always, when you're playing with pre-generated characters, and sometimes there's a little bit missing because it's
bit
not
disconnect.
yours. Yeah, exactly. So with Terrinoth recently being announced by FFG, I think it's coming out in the second quarter. So we should see it sort of mid-year probably, or something like that.
Honestly, perfect timing to finish the last recording up on was just an announcement of the book.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely, absolutely.
Done well.
So thanks again for playing. I hope that you've enjoyed yourselves, and thank you very much, Madeline, for playing. And I hope that we've introduced you to the wonderful hobby that we have a lot of fun doing, and hopefully you can join us again at a later stage for some more games.
Oh, I would love to.
Awesome.
And thank you for GMing.
yes, thank you.
No
very much.
problem at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. I'm GM Hooley.
I'm GM Flano.
I'm GM Huz.
I'm GM Caitlin.
And I'm playing Madeline.
And together, we are the Dice Pool Podcast, where adventure is just a roll away. Well, there you have it, the final chapter of the Dice Ball Podcast live play event, The Haunted City. We all here at the podcast hope that you've enjoyed listening to it as much as we've had creating it. My thanks go to my players, Caitlin, Martin, Michael, and to our newest player, Madeline. It literally was not possible without them. We here at the Dice Ball Podcast would like to also thank you, the listener, for giving us your time and support as we create the podcasts that you want to hear. We hope we have entertained you over the past 5 episodes and given you inspiration to create your own adventures using the GeneSys Role Playing Game. This season's adventure is available as a free download from the Fantasy Flight Games website in the support section of the GeneSys Role Playing Game product page. You can also learn more about Terrinoth in the forthcoming sourcebook for the GeneSys Role Playing Game, Realms of Terrinoth. This was the first season of the Dice Ball Podcast live play event, and we hope to bring further adventures to your sound eyes or earballs, as the case may be, in the future. If you have really enjoyed these live play episodes, you can leave feedback on both iTunes and Facebook. I'm GM Hooley. Thanks for listening, and remember, the Dice Ball Podcast, where adventure is just a roll away. The Dice Ball Podcast is a proud member of the D20 Radio Network. For more information about the network, visit www.d20radio.com. The Dice Ball Podcast is a fan-generated podcast. All of the information provided on the podcast and related website are not affiliated with Fantasy Flight Games or any of their licensors. The content of this podcast remains the property of the Dice Ball Podcast and is intended for educational and informational purposes only. The GeneSys Role Playing Game, the GeneSys logo, content and all material remain the property of Fantasy Flight Games.